And this is hard to swallow. This is a bitter pill to swallow. But everything that happens to us that is calamitous is from disobeying Allah and His Messenger. That's simply reality. And until we come to terms with that, our faith is not sound. And that's why the Quran tells, I was once traveling with Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayya, and I said, it's so interesting how the early people, they always looked to themselves for the problems. But modern people, they point to other things. And he said, كانوا على مذهب قل هو من عند أنفسكم. They were on the madhab, say it's from your own souls. What happens to you comes from your own souls. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أطيعوا الله ورسوله ولا تنازعوا فتفشلوا وتذهب ريحكم. Obey Allah and obey His Messenger, and don't differ amongst you. Munaza is like, don't start fighting amongst you, because you will fail. And your wind will go. What does the wind mean here? Quwwah. Sayyidina Omar brought windmills to Medina because wind is power. Now we know the modern people are going towards wind because it's one of the most powerful forces on the planet. And you can derive energy from wind. Allah uses wind as a metaphor for energy. Your power will go if you start fighting amongst yourselves. I'll just give you an example. The Ottomans for centuries, defended the Muslim lands. But then the Muslims turned on the Ottomans. They turned on them. There's reasons for it, and I'm not going to deny the Ottomans were at that time, they had lost their way as well. But they started allying with the colonialists who were promising them things, and they went against their brother Muslims. The last attempt at defending Palestine, it'll bring tears to your eyes if you read the Ottoman, what they tried to do to defend Palestine. And we know that Abd al-Hamid would not sell Palestine to pay off all the debts of the Ottomans, because he said, it's not mine to sell. But they were betrayed, and people betrayed them, and now we suffer the consequences of those people's mistakes. Because Allah says, اتقوا فتنة لا تصيبن الذين ظلموا منكم خاصة. Beware of calamities that don't just affect the guilty amongst you, they affect the innocent too. So people inherit the sins of people that went before them. In the Quran, Allah says, لا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى. No soul bears the sins of another. Some of the ulama say, in dunya they do. There's things your father does that you end up being disgraced by. And people will treat you badly because of the sins of your father. There's people that are born out of wedlock and they suffer from the sin of their father. They did nothing. That ayah is in the akhirah. You're not going to have any of the calamities or the sins of anybody else in akhirah. But in dunya, no. We bear the sins of other people. We bear the sins of other people. We're suffering today from choices people made 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago. We're still suffering. This country is suffering because they didn't resolve the problem of slavery at the very start. It was a problem, they were dealing with it. But they didn't, so they had to have a civil war. We're still dealing with the problems of the Civil War. Today, the Confederate flag. It happened over 150 years ago. We're still dealing with it. Syria is going to be dealing with this civil war for generations. These things don't go away. So we were given guidance. We were given a covenant. When the covenant is abandoned, calamities happen. The Prophet ﷺ, his sunnah is the wisdom of this book. And if you look at our Prophet ﷺ, all you have to ask, the Christians have this thing, would Jesus do it? What would Jesus do? They ask that. We should have the same criteria. Do you think the Prophet ﷺ would tell people to strap bombs on them and go blow up people, innocent people? Is there anything in his sunnah that indicates that would be a methodology that he would use? Because he was in Mecca. He could have had his Sahaba go assassinate people. They were brave. Abu Dharr al-Ghifari was a Ghifari. Really, he was an incredibly brave man. Ibn Mas'ud was incredibly brave. These men were lions in battle. He could have said, go kill secretly, go sneak into so-and-so's house. He didn't do that. Why? Because that's not his methodology. What he does is out in the open. He never did anything by stealth. other than to escape because Allah commanded him to do. He didn't do things by stealth. He told people exactly what he was going to do, and he did what he was going to do. He didn't shed blood. We have a cult of death. I was just reading a book the other day, and it was all about just death. Like these people love death more than life, and they quote all these early things. That in war, you want people to have that mentality. That's not the mentality that you want people to just have as human beings. The Prophet said, don't desire death. لا تتمنوا الموت. The only time he asked for death is fitna. He said, وَإِنْ أَرَدْتَ بِعِبَادِكَ أَوْ بِالنَّاسِ فِتَّةً فَقْبِضْنِي إِلَيْكَ غَيْرَ مَفْتُونٍ. Take me to you out without civil strife. And he said that when Allah wants rahmah, this is a sahih hadith, when Allah wants rahmah for an ummah, He allows the Prophet who gives them the message to live to see them accept the message. But when He wants to punish an ummah, the Prophet who gives them the message sees their destruction in his own life. Subhanallah. And so our ummah, He wanted rahmah for this ummah. Allah wanted rahmah for this ummah. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا ترجعوا بعدي كفارا يضرب بعضكم رقاب بعض. Don't go become kuffar after I gave you this. Don't become kuffar. How? By killing one another. The ulama say the kuffar here means don't do the actions of people that don't believe in Allah as a rahmah, because even Sahaba fought. So the wisdom of the Prophet ﷺ is something that we have lost in our community. We've lost it. And it's something that we need to regain. And it's regained with knowledge. Because the Prophet ﷺ, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ مُعَلِّمًا, I was sent to teach. It's regained with humility. Because he was the most humble of men. And he said, أُمِرْتُ أَنْ أَتَوَاضَعَ, I was commanded to be humble. حَتَّى لَا يَفْخَرَ أَحَدٌ عَلَى أَحَدٍ, until no one deems himself superior to any other. Because if the Prophet was humble, then who am I not to be humble? If the best of creation was humble, who am I not to be humble? The Prophet was commanded to be humble.